everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Positude Podcast. I'm your host, Maggie Heart. Happy to be here another week with you. Oh my goodness. Is it hot where you are? Because it has been incredibly stifling this week where I'm at, and it doesn't look as though we're going to get a lot of relief for the next 7 days. So you may want to join me tonight on my big comfy couch with some iced coffee, because that's what I'm drinking. But whatever pleasurable beverage you choose to indulge in this fine evening, grab a chair, get comfy, kick off your shoes. I got you covered on the snacks this week because I've got some awesome feta cheese and tomatoes laid out on my little summery plate here, and some pepperoni and some pepper jack cheese and some provolone, and we are good to go with some awesome crackers and some homemade bruschetta. But if that doesn't suit you, grab something you want to eat and let's get started. Everybody that I've talked to this week in a couple of states has complained that they have felt very lethargic and sloth-like. The energies from the heat, but also the chemtrails, have done people dirty this week. Nobody's feeling it. Everybody wants to just lay around, do nothing. A lot of people are complaining of stomach problems, headaches, sinus issues, general lethargy, aches and pains, headaches. And as much as I tease you about food tonight, I generally eat pretty clean, or try to. I can't help my heritage. I've got to have my Italian stuff here and there. But for the most part, I try and eat as clean and healthy as I can. And I encourage you all to do the same too. Keep up on your water intake. We'll talk about that in a little while because it's imperative. Make sure you're doing your detoxes and doing everything that you can to keep yourself strong and healthy. But there's also been another side of the equation this week that I wanted to talk to you guys about that I find very interesting as the energies are shifting on the planet, like we've been talking about for quite some time now. My animals are acting very lethargic. It's true with the heat, but also very needy, very clingy, and very much aware of their surroundings. Like I happened to mention last week, they are absolutely staring at things that I can't always see this past week. There's been a lot of that. And there's been a lot of almost like a nesting thing with them going on. It seems like when they go to lay down in their little beds, they're moving around their pillows, they're scratching on their pillows and on their beds. They're kind of making little nests for themselves, almost as though they're trying to get comfortable, but they just can't quite get there. And I don't think that that's totally related to the heat. I think it's just that there's a sense of unease with them as well, and they're trying to find their comfort zone. And of course that means, clinging to mom and following me around and wanting to be wherever I am and wanting that extra love and attention. So please pay extra care to your animals during this time because things are really starting to shift. I didn't fill you in on this because I was doing so well with my knee issue, but so a little over 2 weeks ago, I happened to slip again and messed things up again, mostly this time though in my back, which was totally unexpected, unanticipated, and yes, extremely frustrating because I'm kind of back to square one, or have been at least for the past couple of weeks, but I'm starting to improve again and I'm starting to feel better. One thing that I've noticed about myself particularly, and also all of my friends and people that I've spoken to, however briefly, because I've been very, very busy, haven't had a lot of free time, even though I've not been able to be as physically active as I normally would be. I've had a lot of other irons in the fire that I've needed to take care of. But yeah, I have made a conscious effort, just like I always try to do, but especially more this past couple of weeks, to be mindful of others. When I'm not feeling good, I want to get irritable, I want to get cranky, especially with the heat compounded with pain in 3 different places that it's been really bad. It's been pretty intense. But I knew I was going to heal and I knew I was going to get better. It's a setback and I know I'll get over this. And I know that when I improve, I'll be stronger than ever, or just as strong as I was before. And that's one thing that I notice about all of the people that I've spoken to, is they're complaining about the heat. They're cranky and kind of miserable about that, but they end up picking up a happy thread. They'll talk about something good that happened to them this week, and they'll get giddy and happy and lighthearted. And that's one thing that I've noticed very prevalently this past week for people who are on the right wavelength, is we want to be cranky, like stuff's getting thrown at us from all different directions, but we're being more mindful of others. In fact, another person actually said to me, one of my girlfriends said to me, I want to be a jerk, I want to be grumpy, but I'm just not gonna be. conscious effort to swing the energy in a positive direction, irregardless of what's going on personally, whether it be physical pain, mental anguish, stress, financial issues, whatever it might be for you. And it may be a combination of all of those things if you're much like a lot of the rest of us now. We're juggling 82 balls at once in the air, wondering where they're going to all hit and are we going to catch them? It's okay. You're right where you need to be. So for those people that have been working on themselves, working on their issues, doing the work, and just naturally, let's call it evolving to where we need to be, those people are doing well. They're trying harder. They're actually thinking about things before they let them blow out of their mouths. These are people, some of them I've known for years, and they're just like me. They're off the cuff. They're actually pausing before they finish a sentence or before they start a topic of conversation. And they're being definitely more positive than what I've seen in the past. The other side is the people who are negative and who are grumpy and who are just plain mean are getting worse. So like we've talked about, this is the wheat and the chaff time. This is where the separation occurs. This is where we're going to choose our own path. We've got the free will. Let's see who goes on one path and who goes on another. Another thing that I've noticed, and this is especially with myself, and other people are feeling it too. I know because I can sense and feel it, and I can feel their emotions as we're having interactions. But whether it be at the supermarket or waiting online somewhere, everybody that I've been lucky enough to be around, total strangers, have been happy, polite, social, friendly, kind, compassionate, empathetic, and a lot of us are reliving past moments that gave us joy. People that were in our lives that have maybe passed on that have given us joy. For me this week, it was all about my great-grandparents, particularly, and memories that I had that I'd forgotten that I'd had from when I was a very small child. The fact that I spoke Italian before I spoke English, and my mother got on my grandparents' case and said, look, she's going to have to go to school soon, so you got to talk to her in English. You can't talk to her in Italian because she can't go to school and talk Italian. So they talked to me in English and try and be respectful of her wishes, and I'd answer in Italian, and that would really piss her off. Things like that. Memories of food that we'd eaten, watching my great-grandpa in the garden, showing me how to grow the tomatoes and how he watered the plants in the little tiny patch of garden he had in the backyard. How he'd hum when he'd be doing it and just be smiling and just totally content. How he and my uncle would go for walks down the street with their hands behind their backs, because that's what the Italian guys do. They walk with their hands behind their backs. You know, things like that. One of the things that's been happening to me for several months, and I've spoken to other people who are kind of on the same wavelength as me, you know, the same, I don't want to say level because I don't want to insult anybody, but healers. I'm remembering, like, I'll be sitting at the table and all of a sudden I'll get a smell that's not in my immediate proximity, but a whiff of, like, say, a perfume that a family member used to wear, or I'll smell the lipstick that my Aunt Dolly used to wear. Like, literally, lipstick has a smell. And when she would kiss me, I could smell the lipstick on me. Things like that. Foods that I hadn't had in years that I can't anymore because now I'm allergic to the dyes and things like that. Treats that I enjoyed as a child that my pop would get me from the corner store when we went to pick up the newspaper on a Sunday and get my comic book, because that was a thing. But the sensory things are really starting to stand out. Memories, conversations, pieces of conversations, like a specific sentence that I'd forgotten about or a phrase that was used. But the smells and the colors of maybe some of the clothes that people in my past had worn on a particular day, the vibrancy is there, and that's carried over into the current situation. So yesterday I was driving down the road and I was kind of wiggling around in my seat trying to get comfortable because I got like this totally intense pain that's like shooting down the whole left side of me, and I'm willing it away and I'm healing it and it's getting better, but it was very uncomfortable, let's be honest. And I put myself in the zone, as it were. I was making myself pain-free and I had to get to this destination. It was something that I needed to do, and I decided that I just wasn't going to be suffering in the pain. I wasn't going to let the pain take over my mood and my body. I was going to erase it. And have you ever driven in a snowstorm at night when the snow is coming at you? And for me, because I was a Star Wars freak when I was little, it always felt like I was in like the Star Wars ship where the stars are shooting by, or even Star Trek where the stars are shooting by as you're driving in the nighttime sky. That's how I felt. I felt like I was encapsulated in my vehicle in the middle of a sunshiny day, but the clouds were all around me, and they were definitely chemtrail clouds. I had chemtrailed the night before because I saw the streaks. And oh, by the way, I think we've mentioned this, but they're doing it at night, so people aren't as aware. The clouds were just unnatural, but they were on different levels. And I swear to you, I'm driving down the road, and it felt like I was in a snow globe. It kind of felt like that Star Wars-y thing where the snow was coming at me, and it was all around me, above me, and on my side. It's just like driving in a snowstorm at nighttime. You know, it's like the snow is all around you, but it's like flying past you. And that's how I felt with the clouds. I felt like I was sort of encapsulated, and the clouds were moving past me and above me and around me, but at the same time they were on different levels. So it was almost like an old school video game, but it was also like being in a snow globe, if that makes sense. Distinctly, I saw on the horizon the way that the clouds were layered. It looked like I was in a dome, and there were clouds on 4 different levels. As I was driving in front of me, the lower level clouds were literally moving to the left, or excuse me, to the right. The second level of clouds, which was like a row, was moving to the left. The third level of clouds was moving to the right, and the fourth level of clouds was moving to the left. So it was like this constant. Have any of you guys ever had one of those sleep machines? I've got one that was my daughter's. I had 2 of them, but one broke. It's got little dolphins on it, and it's like a 3D belt, and it's kind of like a nightlight, but it's bigger than that. It's about the size of a laptop computer screen, and you turn it on, and some of them play music. This one doesn't. It's just dolphins in the water, but it's on a conveyor belt kinda, and the same pattern. Just it's a soft lighted background, so you can use it as a nightlight, and the conveyor belt just kind of spins around, so you get the same repeated pattern over and over. But as it goes around the little conveyor belt, it looks like the dolphins are swimming and jumping out of the water, and then it'll circle around again, and you'll get the same scene and the same scene, but it looks like it's moving, and there's like a soft lighted background. That's how it felt. And I hope you guys know, you got it. If you're my age, you've seen them somewhere. We used to see them a lot in like the Chinese bodegas down the city. They'd have them for like, I don't know, $5-10 back in the day, and you'd plug them in and you could use them as a nightlight. And like I said, they got more technical, some of them. This one is so old. It was one of like the first ones, I guess, that came out. You could actually hear the conveyor belt as it whirs, as it spins. So I guess the whirring could kind of be a peaceful thing, hearing that constant whirring as you drift off to sleep. But it's like that movement, that sound, and it just relaxes you and helps you go to sleep. But as I'm driving down the road, that's what it felt like. It felt like I was in one of those types of simulations, but like a snow globe at the same time. So rather than it being a rectangle, it was more semicircular in shape. And the colors were really vivid but muted. And I looked up at the sky, and I remember thinking to myself, that is not the color of the sky that I grew up with. I used to lay for hours on my back in the sunshine. I'd read books and I'd just look up at nature, or I'd be in a tree somewhere. But we would lay on our backs in the sun and just watch the cloud shapes and patterns. I would pick out different shapes in the clouds and watch them move, and it was just such a beautiful time, you know, trouble-free childhood, right? Laying on your back, eating an ice pop, and just watching this, you know, clouds move and the birds, and listening to the nature sounds around you. And that was always one of my happy places, always being in nature, and even the stars at nighttime too, or being in the woods, being by water. But this time it felt different. It hit me like a ton of bricks. This feels so much like a simulation. But the blues were so unrealistic. They looked fake. It looked like something out of a cheap portrait. And oh, by the way, the shades of blue changed depending on the level of the clouds that I was looking at. So it was almost like those color spectrums that you see where you go from like a darker blue and then it graduates down to like a lighter blue, and when you get to the bottom of the spectrum it's like a really light blue. It was like that. It was like I could see the layers. And I'm trying to process all of this in my mind's eye. I'm trying to focus on what I can see, and I'm also looking at what I can physically see visually in front of me. with my prescription sunglasses on. And then I'm trying to incorporate all this into what does this really mean? Why am I seeing everything like this? And that's been happening for a couple of years off and on, but the last couple of weeks especially, and just yesterday was the strongest it's ever felt. It was like a pulling, like a gnawing. I am not in here. This is not real. It feels so fake. Even driving, the sensations that I felt. I had my window down a little bit. The wind in my hair just didn't feel right. It felt off. So I've been looking around and doing some research from other people's videos to see across the country and the world if anybody else had been experiencing some of the same types of things that I had. And there have been a lot of people the last year or so with the recollections of the smells and the sounds and the memories from their childhood. I haven't seen a lot about that lately, but I have seen a lot about the sky and a lot of talk about the alternate universes and the whole, this is a video game simulation that we're living in, and so many people have been talking about the weather patterns and the clouds and the sky and how it's surreal. Something else that's been a topic of conversation for those guys is the whole, is that our original sun or is it a fake sun? The two sun thing. You guys have heard all of this, I'm sure, the moon being fake. All of that is really starting to be a topic again, which it had died down for a little bit there for a hot minute. It's back. It's back. And so I was wondering if any of you had experienced that same type of thing, or just when you're in thought and you're staring out in front of yourself, and try this for the next week or two, just see what happens. Look out in front of you, into the horizon if you're outside, or even across the room if you're inside of your home, and just let your mind drift and kind of close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, slowly open your eyes, and really look at your surroundings. Do they look the same to you, or does something feel off? Or look a little bit askew, just doesn't look normal, doesn't look right, doesn't look natural, doesn't feel natural. Feels almost like it's a cheap version of the reality that you know as you've known it up to now. And outside is definitely a better option if you can. Look at the colors of the sky, look at the clouds, look at the color of the grass, the things that are in your backyard or in a park that you might go to. Something that you've been looking at for years and that you're very familiar with, and that you have a distinct ingrained memory of what it looked like before versus what it looks like now. You feeling me? We're talking about it. And it's important too, because as weird or as crazy or as strange as it may sound, there are people that are feeling these same things. So if you are, then know you're not alone. And if you're not, don't wonder what's wrong with you or say, oh, I'm just not crazy like them, because you really don't know where you are on that spectrum. Not the crazy spectrum, but you may be working yourself up to feeling those things and sensing those emotions in those particular ways, or you may not. And wherever you're at, that's where you're meant to be. So don't stress over it. Don't feel like it's something that you need to be embarrassed of, but also pay attention, because it may not be something that you've noticed. It may be something that's flying under your radar just simply because, and this is totally rational, but you just haven't paid enough attention to things and it's flown past you. Another thing is, you may still be too grounded in the reality as you know it now, and focusing on the physical realm, and you're just not open to it yet, which is okay. People are also talking more about shadows and shadow people and things flitting around out of the periphery of their vision. That's also on the increase again. And also, as kind as we're being and as nice as we're trying to be, a general overall impatience with people who are acting stupid, just aren't using common sense. And this is something that I've had to remind myself about this week, to please try and be patient with these people, because most of them have taken the jab and they really can't help it. And I think it's important for us to try and remember that. I had a situation today where I really had to bite my tongue. I had to go to the Dunkin' Donuts drive-in at like 10 minutes to 9 tonight because I had to get a couple of pounds of coffee for the house. And I'm out of the good stuff. I'm out of my liquid gold. And I don't want to have to pay to have it shipped to me. So I just figured, all right, I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'll go down, get a couple bags of Dunkin'. That'll hold me over till I can get what I really want, what my my favorite is, and no big deal. For years, I've had these deals periodically where you get 3 bags of ground coffee for like $21 and change now it is, or at least it was at the last purchase. So I pull up to the window and I got my family with me, and I asked the girl on the speaker, do you have 1 pound ground coffee bags and how much are they? And she says, you want iced coffee? And I said, no, I want a pound of ground coffee, the medium roast. And she says, oh, you want a culotta? And I said, no, I want a pound of ground coffee. How much is it? And do you still have the 3 for deals? I don't know. Hold on. And she kind of snickers. So some guy comes to the microphone and I say, do you have the medium ground coffee in the 1 pound bags? How much is it? And do you have the 3 for deal? Because last time I was here, you weren't offering it, and I know they do it periodically. And he says, no, we don't offer that anymore, but we do have the coffee, and it's $10.99 a pound. $10.99 a pound for Dunkin' Donuts coffee is ludicrous to me because I can get 5 pounds of the good stuff for $55 all in. It is liquid gold. It's my heaven. So I say, okay, I'll take 2 pounds of that, and I pull up to the window. I said to him, do you have a bulk discount deal? And he says, no. He goes, I tried to put it through on the register. It wouldn't go through, but we don't do the 3-fers anymore. And he says, but we're trying to get it back. He goes, I want to ask them if we can get it back. And I said to him, well, if it's $22 in change for 2 pounds, and that used to be the 3-pound price, I highly doubt that they're going to bring it back for the $22 because he indicated that he wanted it to be brought back at the other price. And I'm thinking, this doesn't make any sense. It's inflation. It's gone up. If anything, what are they going to give you? Not $2 or $3, maybe off the price. And so it would be, at best, let's figure $30 for 3 pounds instead of the 22. At least that it's got to be. Just makes sense. Probably more. And he says, no, we're trying to bring it back for the same price. And I'm like, they're not going to give you 3 pounds for $22. He couldn't get the concept. It took him a minute. And he had to think about that until he realized, oh, yeah, you're probably right. But we're still trying to get that 3-pack deal back. Okay, well, that's great. So as I'm talking to him at the counter, I can clearly see the girl who waited on me the first time, young girl. And there were 2 young girls that were at the counter. I could see them. And they were going back and forth. As they're talking, she literally bends all the way down, puts her hands on the metal counter, and she's leaning back on her heels, rocking on her heels. And she catches the guy's attention that's waiting on me at the window. Now, mind you, she's full on facing me because I'm across his shoulder in my car at the drive up, and she gives him the most nasty, evil look and kind of rolls her eyes and sort of cocks her head at the young girls at the counter. And she starts to twerk as she's leaning back on her heels. She picks her butt up and she starts to twerk. They can't see her over the top of the counter on their end because it's obviously a lot higher. And I'm looking at her, and finally she catches my eyes and she looks at me and gives me this look of indignance. It was kind of like a, what are you going to do about it? It was challenging. And I locked eyes with her and I stared at her for about 20 seconds. And then she picks her head up, stands up, and continues to wait on the 2 girls at the counter who have absolutely no clue as to what's going on, and the fact that she was very obviously making fun of them somehow. And I just thought, wow, this is a very strange world we live in. So I paid for my coffee and I took off out of there, and I was thinking, the me 20 years ago would have been all over that and said something to her and then called corporate and reported it to the management that, where's your professionalism? This child is dealing with food and she's acting like she's at a strip club on a pole. And it was utterly ridiculous and senseless and rude and obnoxious, but I didn't. And I was aghast at the lack of professionalism, at the lack of courtesy, at the blatant disrespect that she was showing. This is the same person who's like, I don't know, hang on, at the window. Doesn't take any pride in her job. They both look kind of slovenly. They didn't really pay particular attention to their appearance for this shift. Now, granted, it was the end of the day and they were closing, because I said to the guy, when do you close? He's like, oh, we close at 9. So 10 minutes left in the shift. I get it. They've got to wait on people the last minute when they want to mop, clean up, and go home. I understand. But they're there to do a job and they're getting paid to do that job, and you would expect some degree of decorum. But those are the people that I'm talking to, and myself included, we've been discussing for now over a year almost, that we just don't have any patience for that. And I just let it go and went about my business. But there's definitely a dismissive factor that's involved here with the people like myself and like you are, I'm sure, that are dealing with these types of situations. We're so over it, and I just instantly forget about it and just filter out my emotions and move on. And I'm hoping that you do too, because here again, they've probably taken the jab. They are Generation Z, and there's just a total across the board lack of respect and professionalism in those people anyway, and I hate to blanket statement it, so let's say most people of Generation Z, because they were raised with a lack of morals and respect and professionalism and diligence to their duties and pride in their environment, in their workplace, and the job that they were doing. So I'm seeing a lot of that too, is people that would normally say something, especially us Xers, they're just walking away and they're just like washing their hands of these types of situations. I'm not even going to deal with it. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste my energy. And there's the crux. I'm not going to waste my energy in the negative. And within 30 seconds of me leaving there, I was laughing and giggling and carrying on like I normally do and not letting it bother me. But there's the wheat and the chaff. They're the ones that are going to stay back. And it's sad to see, because I do believe that there is a degree of them not being able to control their actions and their thoughts, because their brains were altered because of the substances that they put in their body by way of governmental suggestion and almost insistence rather than a recreational drug. And if they have that combination going, God help them, because then it's really bad. But another thing flitted through my mind as I was witnessing the situation unfold, and that was, this isn't real. This is just too crazy. There are too many instances of this type of thing happening. This doesn't feel normal. But not only does it not feel normal, it doesn't feel real. It's like I'm watching a really bad movie. And there was a whole nother situation that I also encountered yesterday that was off the hook as well. And I don't even have time to go into that. Also involving not one, not two, but 3 Generation Zs. And I also said to myself, this just can't be happening. It's too ridiculous of a scenario to be real. And so now I'm going to ask each of you to examine your situations, your daily occurrences, and the overarching scenario that we find in our country and across the world today. And I ask you again, like I did many months ago, do you really believe what they're throwing out there on the political scene? Are you really still believing in the 2-party system, Democrats versus Republicans, 2 different sides of the fence, 2 different faces of the coin, and they're truly separate? They're not part of the same type of entity. They're not all taking advantage of us and playing us. We're not watching a movie. Hello, enjoy the popcorn, MAGA movement, all of that. Trust the plan. How much have you really seen change in the past 8 months? How many grocery prices have come down? How many gas prices have fallen? And while I can say again that I recognize that things take time, Epstein files, all of that, is it really happening to the extent that they would like for us to believe behind the surface? Is there really a movement where good is going to overtake evil and Trump is going to save the world? I tell you again, let's go back to when he first had those people in that press conference, when Elon Musk was still with him, with the company Palantir and Peter Thiel. Are you awake yet? And are you aware yet of what I was giving you soft disclosure about in my own little happy way to all of my little cannolis? Are you getting it yet? Let me reiterate, not that the guy hasn't done good for the country. The alternative, we would have been done. Long gone. It would have been over. Way over. Not to say that Elon didn't do some positive things as well with Doge. I was loving that whole aspect of it. But I also asked you, is there a possibility that he used that position to get rid of lawsuits against his company, Tesla, and to gain government contracts from his position? He did what he had to do on the surface, but he also got something out of it. Make no mistake. He didn't take no salary for all those months for absolutely nothing. Trust me when I tell you this. And I'm not saying that President Trump's hands may not be hide in certain scenarios and that he may be doing the best that he can. But I also referenced over the years, probably 50 times, the Roman Colosseum and told you unquestionably that I truly do not believe the pissing contest that Trump and Elon had on Twitter or wherever it was, and their little falling out, not buying that. And I also have told you, nobody's coming to save your ass, my ass, anybody's ass. We need to come together, stop all the nonsense, and fight together as one, and see the results that we want to achieve. Put our energy toward what we want to see happen. Let's leave the matrix together. Is that what I see starting to happen here from what we've talked about the last half hour? Hopefully, yes. I also told you to look into that crazy chick, Sabrina Davis. Nessa Barnett knows, so let's get into some clippies. Yes, I know Trump was talking to Putin. Watch it on the mainstream media. I have other clippies I want to play for you tonight, and we're going to have some fun, too. Let's listen to this clip from Encouraged Wisdom.
Guys, check this out.
So there are about 110 million Americans who have not chosen to do the Real ID, and all 110 of them and everybody else should choose never to do the Real ID. If you already have one, if you've got a gold star on, go and get a standardized driver's license. If you're afraid of flying, go get your passport. But do not take the Real ID. Because the whole idea here, the state of Pennsylvania asked Trump to shut down this program. Yep. They called it a usurpation of states' rights. Yep. The federal government has taken over driving and identification over the entire country. And they're going to take all of your primary identification documents and keep them for themselves. You're going to have to give them your social security number, your birth certificate, and your marriage certificate, and they will hold them. They've never had them before. You are essentially recertifying yourself as an American, and then they want to put this and digitize it, put it on your phone, and be able to shut down your access anytime you do something they don't like. This is not a simple ID card, and this is probably going to move into the global UN identification system that the UN wants to create for the entire world. This is your opportunity to shut this down.
And I got you some Princess Purple Rain while Cynthia Nelly shares a video about Silver Rain.
I never meant to call you Prince Sabo. Thank you. I never meant to call you in pain.
People in the USA, if you are living in California, Texas, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, North Dakota, Nevada, a couple of other states, and if it is raining in your state, please check the drops of rain on your umbrella and tell me what color it is. Because where I'm at the minute, it is silver. Now listen, I knew that they were going to start that process. I just did not know that they already started it, and I did not know. Cloud seeding, which is basically introducing particles to the clouds to force rain. Except this is not rain. This is silver iodine, which eventually could cause contamination. So just so you know, it is raining silver iodine. It's touching your face and your flesh, and it's raining on your crops that ends up as a produce in your market. And this is what you're buying and ingesting. Okay? I'm gonna attach a clip of my umbrella because anything that I'm gonna say after this is gonna be vulgar and mean, and I'm gonna lose my... Okay, thank you.
I only wanted one time, see you laughing. Only wanted to see you laughing in the purple rain.
Isn't that funny? How many times have I told you I've been guided in prayer not to get my skin wet from the rain and to get a greenhouse if you can afford it to protect your crops? It's the Joiny Man shares a clip about New Zealand's digital ID app.
The state government is about to launch a new form of digital ID that means you'll never have to hand over your personal details to anyone again. It will all be stored in the Service New South Wales app on your phone, which will prove you are who you say you are.
Scanning his licence, passport and Medicare card, in less than 3 minutes, the minister proves he really is Victor Dominello.
This is unquestionably the Holy Grail.
This is your first look at the state's new digital ID.
This is a huge step forward in giving back people control over their data, control over their identity.
Personal credentials will be stored on your device. No IDs need to be handed over. And that means keeping your address and birth date to yourself. If you need to hire a car, rent a property, set up a bank account, check into a hotel, or prove you're over 18 to buy alcohol or attend an event.
But how can it trust you are who you say you are? Well, you'll need to take a selfie, which will be cross-checked against other forms of ID you've submitted, and when there's a match, you're good to go.
The technology will be opt-in and should be available later this year.
Oh, what a beautiful spin they put on that, huh? What could possibly go wrong? And what nefarious purposes could they use that for? Geez, I wonder. RR the God and RR Rain God share some fun facts on washers.
Yo, this is trippy.
So this guy bought an LG washing machine that was smart and Wi-Fi enabled. And one day he's looking at his internet consumption and realizes that the washing machine is using 3.5 gigabytes of data per day. He went on to find out, he was shocked, he was highly suspicious. What kind of information is this washing machine sharing? Well, apparently smart washing machines are collecting a significant amount of data, including personal information, date of birth, location, access to photos. Now, this is what many people are wondering, the Internet of Things, right? Everything being wireless, everything being smart, collecting data, and it goes down a rabbit hole similar to George Orwell's book. This is why I have no smart things in my home other than, I guess, this phone. I don't have any newly Wi-Fi enabled this, that, fridge, frickin' freezer, all this stuff. You want to keep your home as organic and Amish as possible.
We just fell into the dirt. Look, why I am always so freely. I prepare myself, I get beautiful, and then I look like a little look at my leg. Look at it! Look at it! And this is only the beginning of the adventure.
I doubt Peter Mai has a smart washer. He's so funny.
My pappy used to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if it is broke, get a hold of Maggie Heart at MAGGIE_HEART@outlook.com to get it fixed.
The next one's pretty graphic, so cover your kids' ears or send them out of the room. If you're playing this at your office, you might want to plug in your headphones. This is from Joe Rogan.
There's actually a lawsuit today that's first jury trial in the country over these hospital protocols, where they had a young woman with Down syndrome. They basically euthanized her. They gave her a DNR order, even though she didn't have one, and the father has just been wonderful. It's a Shara family.
Why did they do that? They euthanize her for what?
I've seen this. I have reviewed records from these hospital patients, and they'll euthanize them. They need the bed. They say, well, they're going to die anyway.
What was this person in the hospital for?
COVID protocol. So,
and they, wait. So they were in the hospital COVID, and they gave them something to kill them?
Yeah, that happened. I'm sorry, but I mean, that happened. People, they give them morphine and insulin. And yeah.
That's common?
Yeah. I've reviewed charts in this situation. They gave her a DNR, which is do not resuscitate. And they look like they're dying. You don't do anything, which that was not the case. So they're suing for battery, which is one way of getting around the PrEP Act, because the PrEP Act is very hard to penetrate. The PrEP Act protects everybody, all the doctors, all the hospitals from any wrongdoing during COVID. So it's been this big challenge trying to get around the PrEP Act. In this case, has hope of getting around the PrEP Act because they're charging for battery, and they're in trial. It started today. It's in Wisconsin. So that gives me hope.
Next, Boycott This Place shares a clippy where the BBC accidentally admitted that HIV was added to the COVID jabs.
Before the virus meets our cells is what triggers the most protective antibody response. So Keith must make the spike protein in the lab, locking it into exactly the same shape by adding another protein that acts a bit like a clamp. And that protein is a tiny fragment of HIV.
Here's one you're gonna love from Mama Got Woke AF.
The study proving vaccines are safe and have no connection to autism excluded your child because of the amount of vaccine your child has already gotten. It's exactly what we're dealing with here with this new Danish study that supposedly says there is zero connection between aluminum and autism and vaccines cause no harm. Well, here's the catch. They excluded a huge set of children who got too many shots. Specifically, 3 DTaps or 3 pneumonias or 3 Hep Bs by the time they are 2. Well, anyone who knows anything about the CDC guidelines knows that is basically every child in the United States who follows the guidelines. So, omitted? Purposely? Who knows? But Denmark has 31 doses by age 18. United States has 90. The autism rate in Denmark is 1 in 68. US, 1 in 31. In California, they just released 1 in 12 and a half. Whatever it is, something is causing this. And instead of fighting on who knows best, could we get a real study and figure it out?
Here's one from Jason Brooks.
Product on the market, you can sue the manufacturer for harm, for design defect claims, meaning the claim that the product could have made safer. I mean, literally, look around this room, planes, cars, pharmaceutical drugs, everyone. There's only one product in America. You cannot sue the manufacturer for design defect claim to claim that it could have been made safer, and that are vaccines. I heard, injections, vaccines. My definition of vaccine is any product for which the government needs to give it immunity from harms. To me, that's what a vaccine is, because some prevent infection, some don't. That's what a vaccine is, meaning it can't survive without that immunity, apparently. Why did vaccines get this immunity, which was provided in 1986 under the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act? Because leading up to 86, there were only 3 routine childhood vaccines, MMR, OPV, and DTP, and they were causing so much harm and causing so much liability that all the manufacturers were going out of business to stop making them. And Congress, instead of forcing those manufacturers to do what every other product manufacturer needs to do in that situation, which is what? Make a better, safer product. Instead, said, you know what? We're just going to give you immunity. We're going to make it so nobody can sue you for those harms. And you can keep selling your product to the American public no matter how many children it kills or injures. The issue is that immunity was not just given for those 3 products. It was given for any childhood vaccine, routine child vaccine that was developed thereafter. I tell you this not to take issue with childhood vaccines, but to explain to you the regulatory framework in which vaccines have developed over the last 40 years. We have now gone from 3 injections in the first year of life under the CDC schedule in 86 to 29 injections, including in utero, if a child follows the CDC schedule today. Every one of those vaccines, save one, was developed by a pharmaceutical company knowing they would not be responsible for the injuries that are caused by those products. So when you have drug trials where pharmaceutical companies, they care about losing money, they don't want to lose money on their drugs, they often do multi-year placebo-controlled trials before they get on the market because they don't want to end up upside down. They're there to make money. But with vaccine products, because they don't have that financial incentive, they have the disincentive. Almost every childhood vaccine in this country is licensed based on clinical trials with no placebo control, save for COVID-19 vaccine, often days or weeks, up to maybe 6 months of safety review after injection, and are often extremely underpowered. Those trials could never have really confirmed the safety of this product, and my submission to this committee laid out every single vaccine and put them in detail.
True Perspective 3 shares a new map of the USA.
So I'm going to show you the new map of the United States of America, and you may not be able to see this very well. We have 50 states in the United States, but this is mega regions. Mega regions. Mega regions. Mega, large. Mega regions. These are the city-states. These are large cities that are being made larger. Now, remember I told you that the gray area is the wildlands. That's going to be the area that no one will have access to. And you know, I haven't told you anything about myself. I was a legal witness, an expert witness in land use and land valuation for my government, for the State Department of Transportation. Expert witness, testified in court. And I found out about this because I saw that people were not being able to use their land. And I looked behind that and I found Agenda 21. This is true. Okay, the federal government of the United States is doing this, is in process of creating mega regions, which are essentially crossing national boundaries. This is Cascadia. It used to be a portion of Washington State, Oregon State, Idaho, and Vancouver area, British Columbia in Canada. The Southern California and Texas Triangle areas include part of Mexico. This breaks national boundaries, it breaks state boundaries, it breaks county boundaries. It's also a project of the Ford Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation. Regionalization and world government. You use trade agreements to destroy boundaries, and you actually cannot make local law that breaks those treaties.
Fox News and 37 Stars share a clip about moon soldiers.
As young Americans across the country get to see all of the amazing things that the Army has done, whether it's helping with floods in North Carolina or wildfires in California, or we talked to an astronaut yesterday who's on the moon, who's a soldier, including actually going to war and fighting to defend the freedoms that are that make our nation so great. We think this is going to be an incredible opportunity for the Army to fill up our pipeline for the years to come, and I find it offensive that anybody is challenging that.
Where the hell have you been, soldier? Training, sir! Training, sir! What kind of training, son? Army training, sir! Army training, sir!
Next up, a clip from Vanilla Gorilla LV and the second half of a double shot of Bill Murray.
Is this definitely it? Those UV lenses come in for the video camera and that blank tape. I need it, the one you erased yesterday.
For decades, they told us we were crazy. They said those grid-like streaks in the sky were just condensation. Nothing more than harmless trails left by passing jets. But behind the ridicule, behind the denial, something sinister was taking shape, hidden in plain sight. Now, the walls are finally starting to crack. The Chemtrails Task Force, a covert cross-agency unit activated just weeks ago, has already sent shockwaves through the highest levels of power. Rogue agencies have been shut down, financial networks frozen, and in a stunning turn of events, the task force has made its first arrests. Military contractors, caught red-handed in unauthorized atmospheric spraying operations, are being taken into custody. Names are being named, secret programs are being dragged into the light. And still, this is only the beginning. Because the real question isn't just who is behind it, it's why. And once you hear what the task force has uncovered, you'll never look at the sky or the government the same way again.
Thank you for coming. Hope we can clear this up quickly and quietly. Let's not rush things. We don't even know what you have yet.
Next, a double shot of British from Alien Invasion AI and Warfare and Wisdom.
It was from the council, and you got this on the 12th of January. You moved in November, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you got this letter. Just spell out what this letter says.
That letter says that because the property is derelict, that they can compulsory purchase it. If there's any repairs to be done in it, they could take it off the price of the property.
Yeah.
And these properties are for migrants.
It's
what they want these houses for.
Extraordinary, isn't it? And how did you feel when you got a letter? You moved into your new wonderful home, you settle down, law-abiding citizens, and you get a compulsory purchase order from the council accusing you of occupying a derelict home. How did you feel when you got this?
After paying $200,000 for it, we didn't feel very well.
No. It must have been one hell of a shock, mustn't it?
It was an awful shock. And when I got that, I felt sick. When we went down to the council the day we got that letter after we'd read it. And the lady in there, she said, don't worry about it, it's just a standard letter.
We have been so hollowed out as a nation. We've turned our backs entirely on the territorial integrity of this country to the point where it's become standard to repossess houses.
But why is this always that it's for the immigrant and not the indigenous population?
Well, veterans are sleeping rough.
Yeah.
16,000 veterans.
Terrible weather.
Absolutely.
They can't get put in hotels or in a bivvy stock home.
There is a daylight centre charity in Wellingborough, which looks after homeless people who are sleeping rough. And they spend £630 per annum per head. Illegal migrants get paid £50,000. They get spent on them £50,000 per annum per head. And here we have the evidence of it in this letter. They wanted your lovely new home.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. believable.
Incredible as he is inept, whenever the history books are kept, they'll call him the phony King of England.
So there's been a war declared on Jesus himself in Britain. Britain has outlawed prayer. Whether you pray at home, you pray in public, you lay hands on anyone and pray in the name of Jesus, even with total consent, preach the name of Jesus, hand out a Bible, they will arrest you and charge you and put you in jail for 2 years. They have criminalized Christianity. And with this, there's a direct attack on the church. There's a direct attack on Jesus himself. Yet you can say jihad in the streets openly. And actually, every other religion is not only accepted, but widely celebrated in Britain right now. And so this charge is being led by the government. They are trying to effectually become God. They want to be the supreme authority. And as it stands right now, even they said if they can prove that you're praying to Jesus in your head, yes, praying in your head, they will arrest you right now and they will charge you and penalize you with 2 years in jail. So Britain has launched an all-out attack on the church and an all-out attack on Christ when the entire heritage of Britain and the foundation of which they stand on was all founded by the Bible. It was all biblical values of which Britain was even built upon. So as this war grows and as this war heats up, we can see the war that's been launched on Christ himself in Britain. I love you.
He sits alone on a giant throne, pretending he's the king. A little tyke who's rather like a puppet on a string.
And to round it off with a hat trick of British, Libs Meme Central shares an AI version of the elderly telling it like it is.
Any advice for the younger generation?
Quit being offended by everything and learn to take a joke, you absolute wet wipes.
And any advice for the younger generation?
Grow some, get a job, and stop being such snowflakes. It's embarrassing.
And I'm sure you've heard by now, but Just Fed Up shares a clip about Trump and DC.
Wow. I've been up here a lot. I've never seen a crowd like this. I think we need a ballroom, and that's happening. It's going to be a beautiful ballroom. This is really a lot of people, most I've ever seen in this room. And we're here for a very serious purpose, very serious purpose. Something's out of control, but we're going to put it in control very quickly like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States. I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening. They've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. And you people are victims of it, too. You know, you're reporters, and I understand a lot of you tend to be on the liberal side, but you don't want to get...
And Deep Fake Quotes gives us some information on Shifty Schiff.
Adam Schiff is now pointing to the speech or debate clause in the Constitution as his shield against allegations that he authorized the leak of classified information. It's his way of saying, I have immunity, but history and the Supreme Court tell a different story. In fact, Schiff's situation closely mirrors Gravel versus United States, a landmark case that proved this clause doesn't protect members of Congress from actions outside their official legislative duties. In 1971, Senator Mike Gravel received the Pentagon Papers, classified documents about U.S. actions in Vietnam. He read portions aloud in a Senate subcommittee, a legislative act, then arranged for their private publication by a press, a non-legislative act. The Supreme Court ruled that the speech or debate clause protects members of Congress and aides only for legislative acts. Legislative acts include debating, voting, introducing bills, and conducting committee hearings. Private acts, like arranging the publication of classified material, are not protected. Gravel's reading of the papers in a subcommittee was protected. His arrangement for private publication allegations are true, Schiff's alleged authorization of classified leaks to the press is not a legislative act. Under Gravel, that falls outside the clause's protection. You can't hide behind the Constitution to avoid accountability for illegal acts. Senator Gravel's legislative acts were protected, but his private actions weren't. He faced no charges, but the ruling still drew a clear legal line that applies to every member of Congress. And about that so-called blanket pardon, it doesn't exist here. Joe Biden only extended clemency for Schiff's work on the January 6th committee. It does not cover the period of time tied to these alleged leaks of classified information in 2017. Now you know the precedent. When you hear speech or debate clause, you'll know the difference between protection for real legislative work and a smokescreen. My friends, we are all anonymous, and immunity from the truth is not in the Constitution.
If you like Maggie and the sound of her voice and want to keep her airing quality shows, I'd be much obliged if you donate to the network, because those folks are dirt poor and rely on your contributions to keep the lights on.
Michael Stewart shares an hysterical clip about construction workers forced to work with a furry.
Yeah, did you just hire that boy that's wearing cat ears and a cat collar? And do you know that he has a leash in his tool bag in case he says it gets out of control?
I did not know about the leash, but I did know about the other stuff, okay? And we cannot discriminate against him for identifying as a cat, okay? That's just the way the world is now. It's really good references, so we're just going to have to make it work.
Okay, yep, whatever. I'm going to take like a 20-minute break. I got to run to the store real quick. I'm going to be right back.
You can't just leave in the middle of the shift. And what do you need from the store? Is everything okay?
Well, I'm going to run down to Dollar General and get some canned cat food and see how far he's willing to take this. And either he's going to eat the cat food, and I'm just going to accept that he's a little crazy, and I'm going to just get over it, or I'm going to beat the f*** out of him next time he purrs when I hand him an impact. All right, so we'll find some shit.
Roscoe, you cannot beat the out of him.
He's dressed up as a cat, not a lion. I think I can take him. Okay, look, all I'm saying is, I won't go to Dollar General and get the cat food if you don't want me to, but if somebody does some weird around me again, I'm going to beat the 9 lives out of it. That's all I'm saying. So just plan accordingly.
Just hold on a second, Ross. Let's not do anything crazy, okay? Look, here comes Ricky right here. I'll see if he'll switch laborers with you for the week, all right? Hey, Ricky, hey, you don't mind working with the new guy, do you? The one that does the cat thing?
Oh, Whiskers? Yeah, but he's pretty cool. I mean, he did just get a litter box out of the back of his car and he hid it over there behind those pallets, but, you know, other than that, he's all right.
Oh, for sake. Yeah, he'd have definitely ate your cat food, is all I'm saying.
I'm thinking so, too, and I just sent Pablo to go get some fancy feast from Walmart. We're going to find out together. It's going to be a great day.
No. We're not doing that, okay? We're not giving him cat food. I'll handle the litter box situation. Listen, we needed some help. I hired somebody, okay? We're just going to have to work through this and get over it. I don't care how weird you think it is. Whatever he wants to identify as long as it intends to be a good employee, he's going to stay around here, okay?
Whatever.
Okay. Hey, you still got one open spot, right?
Yes, we should have one spot open. Is there somebody you'd like to recommend?
Yeah, could you hire somebody that acts like a dog? I'd like to see how that plays out.
The entry music, sometimes my halftime music, and the ending music are all provided by my good buddy Pat Carr, a wonderful original musician from Louisiana, now residing in Colorado. You can check him out at http://www.itunes.com/Pat Carr. Pat's at AllMusic, Apple Music, YouTube, SoundClick, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes. He is all over the place. Please check him out, support his music, and tell him Maggie sent you.
Well, I sold my 100th security system today.
Wow, 100 sales in your first month?
Yep.
What's your secret?
Well, if they're not home, I just leave my brochure on the kitchen table.
That clip was from the guy 50, the next from Grayson McGann.
No, it can't just be me, but when my wife puts the kids to sleep, why does it sound like a bank robbery? Everybody be quiet. Lay down. Don't move. I just don't understand. Is it bedtime or is it a hostage negotiation?
Well, cannolis, that's another one in the bucket. Thanks all for listening. We'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.